All right, guys, welcome to my Hollywood Life with Michelle Arbo, of course, celebrity numerologist. And I have with me Matt Barak. Is that how you pronounce
Basak.
it? Basak. Basak.
Yeah.
I'm like, see, you just said it to me, and I knew I am no good with names. I'm good.
No, I'm the same way, so it's all right.
I'm a numerologist. I'm not good with names. So
You go with numbers, not names. That's awesome.
say that again for everyone. What is it?
Basak.
It's Matt Basak. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I found you on LinkedIn because I think I came across your article, and I really resonated with it because, when I was a little kid, I kind of felt the same way you did. I always felt like I was going to do something big or accomplish something big, and I think there's a lot to be said for that because I think, with the law of attraction and all that stuff that we've been taught in the new agey sector, that there is power in words. And I mean, I'm the author of The Energy of Words, so I know all about the meaning of words. And when we say things like, I'm going to be something great, like I did when I was a kid, or when you said, I'm going to sell these baseball cards for $1 million and retire when I'm 30 or whatever, you put passion behind that and boom, it explodes. But there's one thing that I think we did differently, and why I really wanted to have you on the show is because people forget when they watch things like The Secret and The Law of Attraction is that they talk about thinking about what you want. Let's say you want that Bentley in your driveway. They think about it, they put the passion behind it, but then they forget, what are you doing every day, step by step, to make it happen? Because you can't just wish it into reality. You have to take steps to make it happen. And of course, that's what you've done. You've gone on to do like all these businesses, and you've taken the third thing, which is the action step. And I think that's where people go wrong when they try the law of attraction, is that you kind of just stumbled upon it, and so did I. It was like we were kids and we were just big dreamers, but it was really the law of attraction is what happened for us, is that we manifested it all into reality. So it's really cool. So I wanted you to tell your story and inspire people.
Well, and I want to say this because when we first started talking on LinkedIn, the one thing that I made a comment because numbers, and most people don't know this about me because I have a friend that's very big into numbers too and stuff like that, and he was the one that I think we talked about like the house number and stuff like that. We're looking at house numbers. What's most fascinating, and I was telling somebody about this, I was talking to one of my clients today, and I said to him, what's fascinating is a year ago, my wife and I wrote down on a piece of paper all the things we wanted in a brand new house. And I mean, everything down to the T. We actually went to the table with the kids. And so we just sat around the table and we wrote down what everybody wanted in a house. And anyway, we lost it. I'm moving to a new house right now. And as we were going through, my wife pulls out this paper, and we're looking at the paper and we're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we wrote. I mean, down to the T. I wish we would have we actually commented like, I wish we would have got a little more specific on certain things, but I mean, other than that, I mean, it was like what we put out there into the world and stuff like that, it came to us. And fascinating enough, like what you were talking about with, it was that LinkedIn post that I did, and I showed all my baseball, like my son, I gave it to my son, but I gave him all my cards, and they're like laid out all throughout his bedroom. I mean, all over the floor. There's so many of them. I don't even know how many, 50,000, 100,000. But when I was a kid, and I think the moral of the story with what I wrote was, with that, and I kind of like the thing was like, be flexible with your goals, but be confirmed with your goals, but be flexible on your path. Because, for me, when I first started off, I was 10 years old. I believed I was going to become a millionaire with baseball cards. And then I'm actually looking at the article right now. And then when I was 12, I had a paper out and I started buying stocks, and I had a plan to become a millionaire by the time I was 30. And then by the time I was 26, I did make my first million on the internet. And, I kind of, started doing a lot of stuff on the internet, started building companies, and I built them from nothing to multi-million-dollar companies, which is kind of cool. But then, and I realized that, I think the cards, and that was kind of the point I made, is even though the cards weren't the path that I took, but it was like, they gave me permission to be able to dream, to be able to know, hey, look, there's this, this one thing. And as a kid, I literally had this, I put up the posters and, like kind of like the dream board. I didn't realize I wouldn't think they were dream boards back then, but I literally, put all those things out there. Later on in life, as now I'm turning 40, and that was when I was 10, so that's 30 years ago. But it's yeah. So, but it's fascinating to see that, when you you dream it, it does come to reality. I mean, wherever you want to go. I mean, and now the same thing with this house is we wanted a place for my family to become closer, for us to be able to, live our lives any way we want to do it. And, just like we wanted to build this, environment. We had tons of friends. I mean, it's crazy. Like I just left the pool to come over here, to come to the office. I'm in the office right now to do this, but just looking back on life, like it's amazing what you put out there in the world, what does come to you.
It is so true. And I mean, I don't know. It's like we got lucky, and like you said, you did the vision board and the law of attraction all kind of stumbled upon it, so to speak. And there are people out there that try and try as they might to create the world that they want. I think it's that they're not leaving the door open wide enough for how it shows up too, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you can think about it, put the passion behind it, and do action step by step. But then you still have to be on the lookout for, I call them breadcrumbs from the universe. That's
Yeah.
because they're like these little things that show up in your life that even if your head says that's crazy, do it. Like if you meet someone on the street and you haven't seen them in a while and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing now? What's up in your life?" And you tell them and they say, "Oh, you should talk to so and so." Go talk to so and so, because even if your mind says, "Well, I don't really need to." Do it, because I tell you, it's like the craziest things have happened to me from doing things like that. Or like I will meet with people, literally make up like a dinner date with them or like a lunch date, and I'll meet them and I'll say, I'll be honest, I really don't have an agenda for what I was meeting you for. And I just wanted to talk to you because I thought you were interesting. And I thought there might be there just felt to me there was something we needed to talk about. And they look at me for a second like I'm crazy. And then by the end of the dinner or the lunch or whatever, we are like totally like, oh my God, I'm so glad we met.
Yeah.
And I do that stuff all the time. I'm like crazy like that, but
I do. Well, it's not crazy. It's not crazy. It's great. And here's why I say that, because I do the same thing. Like a lot of people, like I will show up. There's a lot of times, in my world, there's, like people, like I went to Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not a Vegas guy, but I went to Vegas because there was like this party and everybody wanted, like this mansion party. And I was like, why are you here? Like I did literally got on the plane 3 days before. I've showed up. They're like, I didn't even know you're going to be here. I said, I really came with no agenda. I just came here because I figured I'd meet 2 or 3 great people. And I walked out with some amazing relationships for business and even for life. I mean, that now, but it is amazing opening up the possibility of like, hey, look, I'm going to create something great. I don't know what it's going to be, but it will be great when I'm done. And I say that, and I want to actually kind of pull back for some of your listeners that are listening right now. You mentioned something that I think that for me, it ran through my head as soon as you said it. And I say that because I have this, there's a couple lines that like, I kind of look at, because I am in the computer world. I do a lot of stuff on the internet. I've been doing stuff on the internet since I was a kid. But I say that because one of the programming that I have in my mind is do it like because a lot of my stuff is more financial, especially in business and as an entrepreneur. But what runs through my head is do what you fear and the money will follow. And so when you were talking about how you meet somebody and somebody said to go do it, it's like funny. Whenever I'm like, I have this like fear like of something, I'm like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and do it. Like even though I don't feel like I should, let me go ahead and do it. The money will follow. And I don't look for it instantly. I might look for it looking from a long-term perspective, but it is fascinating to operate from that perspective of, do it the fear, like, because I've learned a long time ago, a couple things like, through fear, and I don't even know why I'm talking about this. I usually talk about like, hey, how to market on the internet with people, but through fear, like we can't have fear and a faith in their body at the same time. And a lot of times that's what people get stuck on. Like I do a lot of work with a lot of clients when it comes to marketing online, running their businesses. And when I talk to them, like even today, I was like, man, like don't even think about the fear. Think about all the great stuff. Let's not worry about this stuff. Let's just, because if you come from a place of fear, you're not going to have the faith you need to be able to do the things that you want to do.
exactly. And, people always, I get compliments all the time. People email me and they say, Michelle, it's so great to see that you come from so far, or so little to so far. Like, I mean, I was like, living with my single mom on welfare when I was a kid. And then now I'm living in Los Angeles and a celebrity numerologist and 2-time author and blah, blah, blah. And I say, you know what? It's really great that you say those kind words to me, but really the only difference between you and I is that I took the steps to get there. And I think that people see like point A and point B, and then there's this like big black hole in the middle. that they really can't see themselves jumping across, and they don't have to jump across it. That's the fear. Like, that's the whole, like, how do they see themselves going from this day-to-day job to living the life of their dreams and doing their passion, doing what they're passionate about and making money doing it. They just can't, for some reason, fathom that whole black hole energy. And I always say that there's a lot of people like you and I who are bridges for people, because we show them step by step. We tell them that it doesn't have, we don't have to take the leap. We can do this, 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 and just take the steps. And money might show up 5 weeks down the road, or 5 months, or 5 years, but you're going to get there step by step. So it takes the fear out of it completely.
Well, if you think about it, it's interesting when you said that, because I think about one of my friends a long time ago, and I spoke at an event, and one of my friends was, he introduced me, and he said, one thing about Matt, it's like you mentioned, and this is what popped in my head was, he was like, when I drive down the road, he said, it's like Matt drives down the road in the middle of night, but it says when you're driving down the road in the middle of the night, you have your lights on. You can only see so far, but your destination where you want to go. And I think it's a great example to think that way. Like, for anybody that does have that, where it's like you're kind of reserved, like there is going to be that blackness, that darkness, as you're going, but you have your headlights on. You get to see a couple feet ahead of you, but the destination where you're going. And if you think like you are when you're driving at night, you're going to end at the destination. You might have to take a couple different turns to get there, but you're still going to get there if you keep on pursuing, keep on putting your foot on the gas pedal.
Exactly. But I think it just seems so overwhelming to them. So that's, you know what I mean? It just seems like, but when you show them that it's just step by step, and it's like the same way when you're driving at night, it's like, your destination, you're on the lookout because it's dark and you really can't see. So you're just going step by step. I mean, you can only see so much in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the step by step, is like, you can only see this far in front of you. So, and that's the step. And then another step, you see so far in front of you again, and that's how you drive down the road at night. So that's what I show people, is that, it's great that you say I'm inspirational and that I've inspired you, but then they go back to their regular lives doing the job that they hate and don't take any of those steps. And that's the sad part, is that they're unwilling, and it's the fear factor of change. It's really sad that society has, gotten to that point where everyone's fearful of moving a muscle for fear that they might not have enough or money or whatever, But I think there's a huge change coming, and I don't know if you've seen this trend, but all of the clients that I get recently are baby boomers, and it's so weird because they talk about this upside down triangle, right? Where the baby boomers are at the top of the triangle, and we're like the younger generations that are supposed to support the system, and it's going to crumble because all these baby boomers are retiring, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the case. I mean, for the past 2 years, I have had clients come to me who are like 45 and above. I mean, that's not quite baby boomer, but 45 and above. And they come to me and they say, Michelle, I've worked this job my whole life, and now I want to do this. And it's like something completely 180 shift. And it's usually like, for example, I had a 71-year-old woman 3 weeks ago come to my house for a private session. And she said, Michelle, I've done law all my life because my husband was a successful criminal lawyer, and I did the paperwork for him. And I said, well, why did you do all that if that wasn't your passion? And she said, because he needed me and because I was good at it. And so she said, now I feel like 3 years after his death, because he had passed away, I feel like I'm ready to put the law away. And I said, okay, that's great, because she'd already been retired, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. And getting Social Security or whatever. But she was still doing that kind of on the side. And she put it away, and she said, Michelle, I want to do this now. And you'll never guess what a 71-year-old woman wanted to do. She wanted to help women and children who were down on their luck, like women who were in homeless shelters or like abusive centers where they'd been in abusive relationships and stuff like that. Help the women get back on track and see a direction in their life, because she felt that these women had such an impact on their children that to help these women get, picked back up and shown the way, so to speak, they would it would filter into the child's life as well, so it would help both of them. So she wanted to start a business doing that and speaking and going to different places to speak. And I thought, wow, a 71-year-old woman wants to do this. And this is like everybody that comes to me, they're like 65, 55, and they're like, I've worked this my whole life, but I want to do this now. And it's always, always about guiding in some way. It's about mentoring. It's about leading the way. So this whole generation of baby boomers is going to turn into this huge like guiding platform for all of these generations that are like on their phone and they have no sense of direction about what they want to be when they grow up. It's like they have no care in the world. It's like, well, money's just going to show up because my dad gives me money, and they just, you know what I mean? It's like they have no drive or ambition to really go after their goals like that generation did. So it's amazing. It's like this huge shift of what we thought was going to happen is totally not going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's funny. One of my buddies calls it the pendulum. It's like the pendulum shifts back and forth. And what's interesting, and you might enjoy this thought that I got from somebody actually when I was at this place called the Wizard Academy, but where you go learn marketing and advertising. The guy wrote this thing called the Wizard of Oz, and we were in his quote unquote tower. It was kind of neat. But so as we were there, he mentioned something that I thought was fascinating to understand the market. Like I look at things from marketing perspective, but understand the market and understand generations in the past generations. If you actually look at the best-selling or the billboards for music, you actually can find the trend in the super consciousness of that actual group at that moment, or of everybody at that moment, and what's going on in the world by basically the music that's hitting the top of the billboards. And he can actually prove it. He's like showing you all this stuff. I was like, wow, this is actually fascinating to actually understand. And it kind of goes from you to me, and it keeps on moving back, as it goes. But I think it's interesting you bring that up, that because when you said that, a lot of years ago, I used to talk to a lot of authors, speakers, coach, consultants, and experts. And I used to tell them something that really resonated with a lot of people too. And is the fact that, and this is for anybody that's really fearful, if you want to really go out there and if you know you have a great product, a great service, or you could provide a great product or provide a great service or provide, something that could really truly help the world, then I feel, and I've always felt this way. And this is kind of what also was a big driver of me as younger. Somehow I caught this idea of, hey, if I don't go out there, I'm really, you're really, it's not just your job. It's not, if you have this like thing keep on bubbling up, like what you said with the person, want to go out there and help people like that, it's not just your, right, but it's also your duty and it's your responsibility to do that, and I truly feel that it's like, it is my right, it's my responsibility, it's my duty to go out there and to do that, because, somebody else can come along and do it crappy. If you have inside you things that can change people's lives, or if you have something to change, the world, do whatever from that perspective, then I feel if you don't do it, then you're really not just stealing from people's lives, but you're also ripping off the world. Because it is just like you said, the butterfly effect does occur to, just because you can help and serve one person, and you don't realize the impact that's going to happen through all the, like you said, their children, and, throughout life, just by helping that one person.
Exactly. And I think that is what, a lot of the baby boomers are coming to me saying, well, Michelle, did I take a wrong turn? Did I miss the boat? Did I, take the scenic route, or, what's going on? Why am I finding my path and my purpose now? And they feel like they've somehow stalled it all these years. And I say, no, I'm looking at your numerology chart, and, numbers are never wrong, by the way. I've been doing this for like 17 years, and it's more quantum physics than it is metaphysics. It's like math. It's really, essentially it's math, because math, 2 plus 2 is 4, and it's always going to be 4. So when you look at someone's date of birth, it's never wrong. I've never had anyone not resonate with their numbers. And it's not me. I wish I could say, I'm never wrong. But it's not me. It's the science of numbers that's never wrong. I'm just the deliverer of the message. But, you look at their charts, all the baby boomers. You could pick any one of them off the street, and I could do their numbers, and I would say, nope, yep, you totally weren't meant to find your purpose until now. And all of the lower parts of their life, the cycles that they were in, were meant to gain wisdom under their belt, so to speak. Like all the personal experiences, all the things that they've done, because you can't guide somebody at 25. You have to be older and wiser and life experience and all that stuff, right? So I think society teaches us we're supposed to be 25, climb the corporate ladder, have 2.3 kids and a dog in the house and the bank account, and all that stuff. And if we don't, we're failures, we're losers, right? And so these people come to me thinking, am I a loser? Like, what happened? And it's just that we all find our path and our purpose at a different time. So this 71-year-old woman, for example, you're so right about that, about the fact that she had to do her path and purpose at some point, or she'd be stealing from other people. So it's kind of like she wouldn't have been giving to the world what she was here to do. And so she has to do this. It's just something that's got to be done, and she really feels passionate about it, so I'm sure that she's going to do it. It's just a matter of, taking the steps to do it. And I she left really positive, knowing a pathway, and so I really felt good about that. And another thing that is interesting that you were saying is that I feel like, for example, the numbers thing, we were talking about 1111 and seeing different number sequences. It's like a global phenomenon. There's so many people saying like 222, 555, you name it. It's like this incredible thing that's happening to like every culture, every city you could think of. You could visit any city in the world, and I'm sure you could find many people that are seeing number sequences, but no one has done anything with it.
Hmm.
I'm like flabbergasted at the fact that this has been going on for years, and there's no documentary, there's no book, there's really nothing that you can go to as like a definitive source to say, okay, what the heck does this mean? Why am I seeing 1111, or why am I seeing 222? So I feel like it's a sitting duck for me. And I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag by putting this on my show, but I really want to do some sort of like dictionary on this stuff, because I know what these things mean. They're definite messages. Because when I first started numerology, I was like non-religious, non-spiritual. I had no idea what new age spirituality was. I didn't even go to church. I wasn't, I was like devoid of any kind of religious beliefs whatsoever. And I was in corporate HR, the whole outward life. And I started to dream in numbers every night around like age 23. And it was like this weird thing where I would see it on like doors, license plates, street signs, everywhere. And so I started to write them down, thinking like, what the heck is happening? Like, am I going crazy or what? And after about 3 months, I started researching, and I found numerology. And every single one of those number sequences decoded through numerology were messages to the challenges that I were facing at the time. So it was like mind blowing, because I didn't have any experience whatsoever in spirituality at all. So I was like, where is this coming from? It was amazing. And then I fell in love with the numbers, because to me, in hindsight, numbers were kind of my thing. I was like in enriched math in middle school, and like I would remember phone numbers just by hearing it once and that kind of thing. So I knew it was like, looking back, numbers were kind of my thing, but it wasn't time yet. So then by 23, it was time for me to really embrace what I was supposed to do. And I'm different from a lot of numerologists out there. I don't do the numbers in the same way. I have a different spin on it. So it's been an interesting journey, but I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I totally built my empire, like you said, jumping on a plane to go to a party in Vegas. That was me. It was like, jump on a plane the next day for like a celebrity interview. I'd be like, I'm there. And this is like going from the East Coast of Canada all the way to LA or something, I'm there. And so that's how I did it. I just took the steps as they came. And I write for lotteriusa.com right now, and I do a weekly column that they pay me for, and it's like a kind of a dream job. You sit home and write a column and get paid for it. And a week before they called me, I found a dollar bill on the sidewalk. And I picked up the dollar bill, and I said to the person with me, I said, I bet you this is a lucky dollar bill. I know it is. There's something coming down the tubes. There's something big about this. So I put it on the glass shelf just inside my door. When I come in, there's like glass shelving, and I put it on the top. And a week later, they called me. So it's like the breadcrumbs I'm talking about. Follow those darn breadcrumbs, because they will lead you to exactly where you need to be. So, of course, I kept the dollar, and it's been very special to me. But I think a lot of people miss the breadcrumbs because they're so subtle. Like, they fall into your lap. They're like, I have crazy stories of like a friend coming over to talk to me about a dream, about dreaming of angels and having angel wings. And I kid you not, with a white feather, we caught it in midair. It was falling on the floor. Then the FedEx driver comes to the door and delivers 2 books. One was a topic of angels, because I get books from different publishers for interviews and things like that. Just weird things like that happen to me all the time, like these synchronicities, these coincidences that are really not coincidences at all. It's like, they're just amazing. Like, life amazes me all the time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, this was awesome. I mean, it's like, I've never met anyone that lives their life the way that I do because it's crazy. It's like we do inspire people with our craziness. I mean, it's like um, I think that's what really attracted me to your story most is that it's a little bit off the wall. It's a little bit crazy. It's a little bit out of the box, so to speak. And that's why people really need to start living out of the box and dreaming bigger and going for it and taking that extra step to say, okay, what am I doing today to make that goal happen? That's the step that people need to know, that we need to teach people. And I think that's the key to us. That's like we do the law of attraction, but we take that extra step to do the jumping and the leaping and the, going for it kind of thing.
Yeah, and well, and I mean, it's funny. I shouldn't say this because I know you're gonna. Well, there's this book called Think and Grow Rich, and I read it years ago, and I probably read it multiple different times. And one day I was sitting there talking to somebody. I was like, honestly, I think at the end of the day, we should just throw this book away. And they're like, what? And I was like, no, because you need to act and grow rich. Like, actually do something, take action. We can think about it all day long. What good is that? It's great, and it's great having these thoughts and putting it out there. But it's I don't know if you you know, watch, and it actually really hit me when I was watching Old Yeller with my daughter. I mean, I've watched it years ago, and then I watched it again. No, it was Old Yeller. No, it was Where the Red Fern Grows. I don't know if you remember that movie, but we were watching Red Fern Grows, and I watched it for I told my daughter, we got to watch this when she was little. And so anyway, we watched it, and with Red Fern Grows, like these kids wanted, this kid wanted it. He was poor. He wanted to get these two dogs, and a lot of people know that story. And anyway, the parents didn't want him to get the dog. Anyway, the kid just started raising money, and it came to a point where he didn't know if he was going to get him. But somebody said to him, "It was like, if you get it, God will meet you halfway." It's like if you do nothing, nothing's going to happen, but God will meet you halfway, or however anybody wants to look at it. But when it said that, I was like, you got to do something. Like, you've got to meet somebody or something, halfway. And it was interesting when I heard that, I was like, that's interesting. Like, if I don't take action, I'm never going to get halfway to be able to be met, to be able to go where I want to go.
Yeah. And I think, like people like you and I, for example, because we're not in the baby boomer generation, you're going to get a lot of people coming to you. I mean, I don't know if you do any kind of consulting work now, but you probably will, because
Yeah.
I'm serious. I mean, these people are like they're the top of the triangle, so there's a lot of them, but they don't know the way. They don't. They say to me, "I've lived this all my life, but I want to do this now, like 180 this way." So you're going to get people who are wanting to start internet businesses and wanting to do all these different things that they have no clue about. And so I think a lot of us are going to get bombarded with these baby boomers, and it's going to be fun because I think it's just the way that the world is evolving right now. It's fascinating. Like I've had 3 near-death experiences, and I always say I'm a cat. I have like 6 left. So, and every time I've had one, I've always had this kind of like different view of life. It's like, and the last one I had was a 7-minute seizure, and I was dead. Like my lips were blue and everything for like 2.5 minutes of that seizure. Then the paramedics revived me, and I continued to have the seizure for the remaining 7 minutes. And that particular time, it was like I always sit with my legs crossed. For example, like right now, I have my legs crossed on my office chair, and even like booths at restaurants or whatever, I'll sit with my legs crossed, and they call it like the lotus position or something. And in this particular near-death experience, there were people coming at me with their legs crossed and their hands like I Dream a Genie kind of thing. And I didn't know any of them. They weren't like family members coming to get me or anything, but I felt this push back every time they came closer to me. It was like pushing me backwards. And I woke up thinking, that's why I sit like that. It's some sort of spiritual thing. And I've had like a life review. I actually had a panic attack that froze me. Like the paramedics said people can die from panic attacks. And I'm like, panic attack? I was watching a movie and I wasn't even stressed, but I was feeling this like pressure on my chest that was like an elephant was standing on my chest. And so I went in the bedroom and laid down, and it got, worse and worse and worse, and until I couldn't breathe. And then my whole body started to freeze up because it was lack of, what is it you breathe out? Carbon monoxide?
I'm not. Yeah, that should be
I
right.
always get it confused with the carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a lack of that. So he said he's seen people like completely freeze up. So I had like this tunnel vision at the end of it where I could just kind of hear what was around me. and waiting for the sirens to come. And I was having these flashes of like things that had happened in my life, of like, that's why that happened, and that's why I did that, and that, like, it was all seeing it from a different perspective. And I knew each time I had these things that they'd never happen again. It was so weird. It was like I knew I'd never have another panic attack, and I knew I'd never have another seizure like that, or ever a seizure again, because I hadn't had one before. It was like my first time, and but it was just, I think it was like an awakening of sorts, or like a shift in perspective for me. It was really cool. And then, of course, the first one I had, I was only 4. I had one of those jawbreakers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were huge when we were kids, right? Like they were mega.
Yeah.
And I ended up choking on one of those, and I was
Mm.
playing in a room with a couple little boys my age, and they didn't think I was actually choking. They thought I was joking. And by the time they let me out, I collapsed on the floor, and I was seeing my mom outside my body, and I was watching her take it from my throat with her finger, but she didn't know how to do CPR, so she had to wait for the paramedics to come. And thankfully, they got there before 6 minutes, because I think after 6 minutes, you're brain dead. But I remember like the whole atmosphere feeling like super warm. It was like a bath, like a warm bath. And then there were 2 like white light beings on either side, kind of like my lamp going on over here. It was like this bright light that you really couldn't look at with your human eye, but I could see it where I was, and I just felt such peace and calm and like neutral, like I was watching a scene from a movie that I didn't really have any reaction to. And it was
Mhm.
just the weirdest thing. And then I was, boom, back in my body. So every time I saw a different thing or a different shift in the way the world is moving, and after my seizure, this is the really coolest thing. They were showing me different ways or different realities. And I think in my work, I've been seeing a lot of people coming to me talking about reality shifts. Like they wake up from a dream and they think, that feels like my life now, but in a different reality at the same time. So it's like these reality dreams. Like, I don't know if you saw that show Sliders before, but it's like they used to slide into different dimensions.
Yes. Yes.
This is kind of like how people are having their dreams now. And what they would show me after my seizure, I'd hear this buzzing in my ears, and it would be like, when you're laying in bed and you're kind of like awake but not, and I'd hear this buzzing, and then all of a sudden the whole room would be like pin straight. Like my partner has running medals on the wall, for example, and they'd be like pin straight. The ribbons would be pin straight. The books on the shelf would be like perfectly aligned. Everything was like dust free. It was like pristine. And then the buzzing would stop, and it would go back to like all disheveled, like regular life. And I don't see that anymore, but I did see it for like the first 3 months after my seizure, and I didn't really know what they were trying to show me with those realities. But there's something really big happening right now. There's something really magical happening, because with these shifts in reality dreams that I'm having too, and seeing things in a different perspective. The last thing I want to say is that I also saw after my seizure was these really cool layers they showed me. The first layer was numbers. The second layer, and they were spinning for some reason. And the second layer was like sacred geometry symbols. And I'm not really familiar with
Mhm.
them, but I want to be, because I think there's something about sacred geometry that's like the next level. And then the third level was like regular reality, like disheveled, normal life. So there was like 3 levels they kept showing me. So there's something, I don't know, we're headed towards some kind of a big shift where people are going to see things in a vastly different light. It's going to be amazing.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to be busy, I think. You're going to be one of
I
those people. You keep posting articles like that, young man, and people are going to be, begging for your help, because they're going to resonate with it like I did. And I
Oh
just,
yeah, I will tell you, it was fascinating when I did put. I mean, I just say it was fascinating. I even told my wife, like, the reason I posted over there, because I posted it on Facebook and it went crazy, and I'm like, huh, let me go put it on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I got hit up by, I got like 4 or 5 interviews after, like, no, I had 12 actually, 12 interviews because of that one post, and I'm like, crazy. Like I was, and the thing about it was too, I was so afraid. I was so afraid to post it. How weird. Like I was like the third podcaster in the world. Like I was the third podcaster in the world. I've done, like, I was before, like I noticed you have an opt-in page on your page. Actually, you have a, but on your page, when I went to your page, and I'm like, I was way before that. My friends and I actually developed that technology to be able to do it. Actually, my friend created the technology to be able to, the reason we have YouTube today is because he took the idea of Flash and put it with video, because before, and then YouTube started. Like, so it's funny because I come from, that's my kind of group of friends. We kind of created a lot of technology, like a lot of, I mean, people, use businesses, small businesses, big businesses today. But, I bring that up because it is just, I bring that up because I was, I've gone through a lot. I've been, posting stuff forever, but I was afraid to post that one thing. And that's what I said. I was like, you know what, screw it. At the end of the day, let me just post it, because I guess maybe I was a little bit vulnerable, maybe not. I don't know what it was, but it resonated with so many people. And plus I didn't want people to feel that I was like bragging in any way, even though, because I said I did it. Like at the end of the day, it was like, here's where I was, here's what I gone through, and here's where I am right now, kind of thing. But I didn't want to. I just felt like, oh man, I was afraid. That's why I ended it with, I told my wife, I was like, I need a bottom line. Like, what is the bottom line I want to share with people? I need something here, so it doesn't sound like I'm, I don't know, like self-absorbed or whatever in the post. Yeah. And that's why she was like, when I read it, here's what I hear. And she gave me the line. It was like, be firm with your goals, but flexible with your path. And I was like, perfect. And so many people started quoting that quote, and they're like quoting Tony Robbins and like, here's what Tony says, but I like what Matt says. And I'm like, you got to give my wife credit for this. She's the one that really said it. So
I think she was a breadcrumb from the universe at that moment.
My wife is the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, I will say this, it was, people like jokingly say, oh, you're a self-made millionaire. I'm saying, no, I'm not. I'm a couple made millionaire. If it wasn't my wife not by my side, I would never been able to do half the thing. So I've been able to do. She's been my, she's always, I run stuff past her, and I do that with my children too. Like when I first started speaking, people would ask me to come speak, and I would literally go through, my daughter was 5 or 6 at the time, and I would do my speech to her and let her tell me like, hey, what did you think? And she would tell me, and she would give me honest feedback. It was fascinating. I do it to she's grown up, gone to college. Kind of, she's in college now, but she skipped a few grades. But and then my 2 younger ones, 9 and 10, like I do the same thing to them. I'm like, guys, what do you think about this? And they'll be frank with me as possible. They're like, oh. And they're the best feedback in the world. Like, I love seeing through the eyes of children. And that's one thing. It's funny because I wrote a book. It was or I was part of a book where it was called Wake Up and Live the Life You Love. Actually, it so resonates with what you're talking about too. It's like, wake up and live the life you love. Like, it sounds like a lot of people are waking up and about to live the life they love. And so I wrote the book about how I was 12 years old and I wish I could see life. I always wish I could see life through my eyes when I was 12, because even what I wrote on there, and I had to be reminded of that. And that's one thing that when I see my cards or when I see things, that reminds me of, hey, let me look through the eyes of a kid. Like when I was a kid, I wasn't afraid of these things that I am right now. And I hate that society, or not just society, or life gets in our ways, and we kind of become a little more guarded, about doing things, and more fearful about just trying new things. And, and that's kind of what I bring that on, because, and hopefully that resonates with somebody, is like, hey, get back to when you're, like you got to the point where you are right now, like thinking about it. It's like, one thing I thought about the lady you were talking about was like, what's so cool about it is she's probably in a financial position that she can actually go out and truly help a lot more people, because, and that's probably why she's at the point right now, is that she can actually go do it. If she did it earlier on, she might not have been able to do it. You don't never know. But I mean, but I bring that up is because, when you do get that calling or whatever it is that you want to share, like, jump, and make it happen, because it's so amazing of the impact we can do and share. And I hope from this conversation, maybe something resonates with somebody, but you do have from, and I want to say this, it's interesting. And I'll tell you this one thing, and bring it up because you're talking about geometry and stuff like that. And years ago, I went on this. That's when I started growing a beard. Is I kind of went on the spiritual journey. Like, I don't talk about this. You get me talk about things. I usually talk about like, I talk about numbers in marketing. Like, I look at analyze numbers. That's probably why we connected. Like, I do analyze numbers, and I split tests, and I do all this crazy stuff with marketing, and I'm analyzing numbers, and I look at things, and I analyze data, big numbers, small numbers, and I can determine things through numbers through marketing. But my point is, and the thing that I want to share is, I kind of lost it, but the point is that as we're crap, it was so good. I wanted to end this way.
I do that all the time. And
How did I lose it? It was so good.
you talk fast like I do, and I'll tell you a crazy story while you're trying to think of it. I talk fast like you do. Like you're a super fast talker, and I always say, or people say that I'm, could be an auctioneer or something because I talk really fast. But I was actually I used to talk a lot faster, and I used to be like they used to call me hummingbird because I go from subject to subject to all over the place, and so I decided to be tested for ADHD. And lo and behold, normally they would just test you and then assign you a shrink like weeks down the road to have like a follow-up session or whatever. So they test me and they say, "Do you have a few minutes? Could you stay for like 15 more minutes?" And I'm like, "Sure." And they got me in to see a shrink that day because I had severe ADHD, and so they ended up putting me on medication, which is okay. I mean, I'm not a pill popper, so I'm not like big on the way Americans kind of throw prescriptions at you, but
Yeah.
it really helped me a lot because I used to be like, no one could understand what I was saying because I was talking fast and the ideas were flowing and that kind of thing. So it just made me laugh because you not only talk fast but you forgot what you were going to say. So
Well, I wrote it down so I won't forget because you brought it up, and thanks for buying me some time to say it. But I truly appreciate it, which is funny because I do have it. I do have that, and I get it when I get passionate or excited about something because I'm really excited to even sit here and talk, and it's an honor to be here. And I say that because you're bringing up things like you're making me feel like sometimes you need people like you're like I don't. My world is all business, and we're all numbers, but we're in numbers in business, right? And money, and people do things like that. But there's also this other side of me, which you can kind of probably see some things over in that area. That I do look at geometry. I do understand. I mean, I do pay attention to arithmetic. I do look at different things through this path I went through. But I bring this up is years ago I did this. I launched a product on a digital marketplace, kind of like Amazon, but it's another digital marketplace where you sell ebooks and things like that. And we made a lot of money. And I say a lot of money. It was a $37 product. And I'm not saying this to brag. I want to I made millions in days. And we were the most trafficked website over we beat Angelina Jolie, everybody. And we were like the top trafficked website. I mean, even on New Year's, we beat New Year's. And I say that because after that was over, I said, "Oh my gosh, I am more powerful. I really focused and concentrated, and I put this thing together, and I mastered. I had over 7,000 people promote my product. I had no idea. Like it came from this idea, and I made all this money. I made tons of money, millions over a couple of days, and I decided that I'm gonna take a little break. Like I had my team, I made sure everybody supported on this product and everything else. And I took a break and I kind of went on the spiritual journey. And while I did, and I started growing my hair out and my beard used to be really long and then I go down because I just like, what, let me figure out how did I get this power? And I started analyzing religions and how did religions make this happen? I started analyzing, I love war and I started watching wars and I wanted to just kind of understand things. And as I was doing it, I ran across, and I started because war came together. And if you think I like things about war, and I study, war for marketing tech from a marketing perspective because people don't realize it, but PR, and I know you're in that, but PR is actually originally is the real name of PR is propaganda. It came from war. We just covered it up. The Americans actually covered it up and changed it from propaganda to PR, public relations. It's the same thing. So when I realized that and I started getting deeper and deeper in understanding from a marketing perspective and looking at war, I got into the Crusades. And as I was going to the Crusades, I found, I started studying the Knights Templar. And it was interesting. And I say this because this one thing really changed everything for me, my perception about everything. And you talked about like, sometimes we have this awakening. For me, it was like I found it. And I started searching these old archives about the Knights Templars. And because it was funny, because the Knights Templar used to be really poor. And all of a sudden they went into the King Solomon's Temple. And then later on they come out and they have like this understanding that understanding stuff like that. Well, at that moment, so as I was going through and studying all these books and studying these old things, their motto changed, and it hit me. And when I saw this, I quit looking. It hit me, and maybe this resonates with anybody, and maybe it doesn't. But this to me, this was like a big find that really changed me. Just these 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 words, and it's nothing is true, everything is permitted, and I was like, oh, like that to me, when I found it, it was like, whoa, like nothing is true. Everything's permitted. So like I permit my brain to say that this is true. Like, I don't know. For me, it was like all of a sudden I could see. and and I say that because I started testing it. So I went out and I have a bunch of land and I've got waterfalls and caves, and we were out there with my family, and there's some locals, and I said to them, I was like, look, you guys aren't permitted like over here. And I said this to a couple of the locals, and they literally heard my words and listened to my words as if I put a fence up. And I was just testing this idea of permission and giving people permission. And I say that because I want to tell everybody, like, whatever your heart's desire is, if you've got this passion deep inside of you, you're permitted to go do it. Like, don't wait for these other people to give you permission. You have your own permission. And, because in the end, like, and that was the word permission is I kind of wanted to share, but like that one line for me, just like it just struck a chord with me, in really deep. And, but I say that because I really can't wait to hear, everybody that you work with. And I know you got more and more people coming to you, and seeing people, going out there and just creating some amazing things in their life.
Well, I kind of see that quote a little bit differently than you do in the sense, and it's probably the same thing, it's just like a different way to see the same truth. It's like nothing is true because, there's so many people that are living someone else's truth.
Mm.
And you're meant to live your own truth. And I think that has a lot to do with that sentence, is that nothing is true, but everything is permitted. So you're permitted to create your own truth. And I think that people are just getting that now, that, because I actually had this moment in my life where I hit rock bottom. I was like always looking outside myself for answers and always saying, well, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should call myself? And at the time I was calling myself an intuitive numerologist, and I'm like really practical when it comes to spirituality, because remember, I grew up with nothing, right? I have no influence. So for me, it was like a touchy subject where I wanted to keep everything grounded and practical. And that's how I got a lot of the the major media and stuff, because I was so practical and scientific with it, that I just was so unhappy with the way that I was living, because I was living bits and pieces of other people's truth, and I was like, what am I doing? This is not me. This is somebody else's stuff. And so I dropped everything. Literally, I took down my website. I took down everything and anything. I was like nothing and no one. I sold my house. I sold everything in it except for clothes and pictures. And I traveled across Canada from way over in the East Coast all the way to Calgary, which is like the second from the last province. And I had a friend there, and I was there like maybe 2 weeks. And out of the blue, CTV Morning Live calls me, and they're like Fox equivalent in like the US kind of thing. They're like across every province. They're like the big news broadcasters. And they said, we know you're a numerologist, and we'd love to have you on the show to talk about doomsday. Because at the time it was 2011, it was getting close to like doomsday, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sure. When do you want, kind of thing. I was like blown away. I'm like, first of all, how did they know I was a numerologist? Because I had nothing up. Second of all, how the hell did they know I was a numerologist? Right? So to this day, like I even became really good friends with the producer, because I was on a lot after that, because they really liked me and they gave me more time in each segment because I was good at live TV. And I never asked her why or how they found me, because I just wanted that as my own little secret, like my own little thing that I just don't know. So it was just really cool. And then from that point forward, I rebranded myself, because I said, you know what? I'm going on live TV. I dropped everything. It's my time to reinvent the wheel. So at that time, I'd had celebrity interviews, celebrity clients, and I like to work with that group because they touch so many lives. Like if you get their head on straight, they can go and affect so many other people's lives, right? So I said, I'm going to go on air and I'm going to own celebrity numerologists, and that's what I did. And it was like a snowball rolling down the hill, collecting snow after that. It was like my whole life changed. I was living here through my heart instead of through my head. And I was making decisions from that point forward through my heart. And it was like, boom, everything was aligning. It was amazing. It was like magic. And that was because I was living my truth. It resonated with me. I was making everything from that point forward something that resonated with me. So when you look at that statement, nothing is true, but everything is permitted, you're allowed to create your own truth. And that's what I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think this whole other side of you, I think people are going to be really interested in. And the fact that you let the cat out of the bag, saying that you were like kind of a forefounder in all this stuff, it's like
I've
showing
done.
baby boomers.
Yeah, I lucked out. No, I've been very blessed in over the years with all the things that I've been able to see and do. And, I don't know. I mean, I just, it's interesting because I did attract it. I wanted to create something amazing in the market. And, we have done it. Like we created, like my buddies and I, we created the opt-in page where people opt in. Like we created cool
Like,
stuff. Yeah. And because we were kind of, under pressure, diamonds are created. And it was kind of like, back in 2003, they came out with this Can Spam Act, and we're like, what are we going to do? We can't do what we're doing now to send emails. So we got to change the way. And then we came up with this idea of having people opt in and, be able to get it. And then now we see everybody using it. Actually, if you ever look at an opt-in page and see underneath where they have the little, it has a little lock. I used to test a lot of stuff, and I would tell everybody, here's what you need to do in order to get more conversions on your page. Cause I used to test, I look at numbers and analyze which page is doing better than it, and I was like, that's what you need to do. Now everybody I see it all over the place, and I'm like, that was my idea when I looked at the freaking SSL certificate started coming out, and I saw the little lock up on this right hand or left hand side, and I'm like, why don't we put that on the page? And then now it's gone crazy, but even the pages itself. So yeah.
And you're going to resonate so much with the baby boomer generation because they're in that era where all that was kind of like, happening. I mean, we're used to it. Like,
Yeah.
My generation and below, it's like we didn't know where that came from. We just know it's there, So
Yeah.
know that you created those things. It's really gonna build trust with that big, huge group that's coming that wants to know the answers and they're gonna trust you. You know what I mean? It's like because you're like the foundation of everything.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, I've been able to.
From a marketing perspective, but from an internet perspective, I mean, a lot of these people don't know their way around the internet. They don't know how to build a website. They don't know how to, and knowing that you are at the basis of a lot of this stuff that is now just secondhand nature to everybody else, it's a trust factor. It's like, oh, wow, I'd really like to connect with him to do some of my marketing or some of my web development or whatever, because he's like,
I can point him. I can point people in the right direction. I do a lot of stuff for my own companies, but I do, take on people especially, right now I've kind of had this fascination. I love working. It's funny you said, I get it really clear. So I run my own companies. I run a lot of information businesses. So I've run them in stocks. I like to pick money things. We did stocks. We built a stock company. We built a real estate company. We built taxes, internet marketing, digital marketing. So all in information. So I love it because I love selling digits. It's like, wow, I actually sell air, but it's real, it's digits, the ones and zeros is what I sell. So, so it literally is, digitized. I love digital stuff. Plus, what you do, you have books and stuff like that. So author, speakers, coach, consultants, man, I've built a list I have 1.2 million people that have on my email list I can mail out. And, it's crazy. And I did that less than 6 months.
I just WordStream, which I don't want to dog on WordStream, but I'm on the fence with them because they have a great pitch, but then I'm not seeing a whole lot of results yet. So I don't know if I'm, I have this guy that's my dedicated consultant and blah blah blah, and I work with him every week, and we're setting up these Google AdWords, which is like rocket science to me, and I don't know, I'm just kind of lost in the shuffle, but I needed help because I was at that level where it's okay, where do I take it from here? And I needed to be some of the top keywords and stuff to be searched, because right now if you type in my name, it's pages and pages and pages, but no one's going to search my name necessarily. I mean, I am out there somewhat as, if people do search on my name, but I needed numerology or numerologist and stuff like that. So I didn't know how to get there, and I hired them for almost $400 a month. So they said I would get my money back, so to speak, or make it worth it within 30 days. So we'll see. But
it'd be interesting. It's interesting. I mean, everybody's at a different place and stuff like that. I mean, and where they go, and that may or may not be the best place, for you. I mean, it's up to them. But anyway, I mean, good luck on that. And I'll tell you, because we're starting this new relationship, because I tell all my friends, hey, this is just the beginning. So this is just the beginning, hopefully, of our relationship. And I'll tell you, because I'm very grateful to be on here. If you personally want to hit me up on LinkedIn, is really good. Hit me up. Like you run something past that doesn't feel right for you with maybe something they're saying, I'll shoot back and let you know. I mean, I do have a lot of experience, and I mean, I don't want to be, but I'll be there for you if you need, some guidance and you don't feel it's right.
If you need spiritual guidance or like cuckoo for Cuckoo Puffs kind of,
Yeah.
experience. Well, if you need someone to talk to spiritually,
Yeah.
the wacko stuff, I'm always
Yeah.
for you too. So
Yeah.
I want you to tell listeners and all viewers, I guess. I always say listeners because I had a podcast first before I had actual video of one. So I always say that first. But viewers, if you could tell the viewers how you can be reached, and when I edit this, I'm going to put it on the bottom and everything, so it'll be all jazzed up and stuff. So what's the best way to reach you?
You did it the best. LinkedIn would probably be the best way, because then that's how we met. I think it's the best way for everybody else to meet. I will say, I feel that's the best way for anybody to get a hold of me. My email's on there when we do it. Connect with me. I'll connect back. You communicate with me over there. I'll get back as much as possible. I'm loving LinkedIn. I actually put that on Facebook. I'm like, I built my thing. I built the thing years ago, right when it came out, kind of let it sit. And then now I looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got 30,000 people connected to me. Where the hell did this come from?
Like, it's my new favorite thing because
it is my new. I literally wrote that. I was like, "This is my." I think I actually used the exact words on Facebook.
Facebook's like, I ate this for lunch.
Yeah.
It's like, and you get like 400 likes on I ate this for lunch, and then you post, something that you're selling or promoting, and you get like chirp chirp, right?
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is like much more businessy, much more professional. Like it's for grown-ups. It's like Facebook is for like, the social kid in you or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I see it. But yeah, totally. It's my new favorite thing too. So so it was good to have you on. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I love seeing that other side of you, because knowing that you were like the foundation for a lot of the stuff that we just take for granted and know that it's going to be there, it's just really cool. So I'm going to have to look you up and kind of lurk a little bit more and see what you're about.
Well, I will say this. I've sold a lot of products and services over the years. So anything, just take it to light. Like I have over 500,000 customers. So, some people love me, some people hate me. But me, like you've met me, and like don't listen to anything. I have haters. I just want to tell you, I have a few haters. So
we all have. I mean, we all do, right? I mean, no one. And I think because you and I speak your truth, like what you see is what you get. We tend to attract haters because there's not a lot of people yet that are ready to hear the truth. It's like you're talking about your kids and saying those speeches to your kids, and they give you honest feedback because they are the generation that speaks their truth, and there's no sugarcoating. It's like, if you get a bad haircut, they're like, Dad, that really does not look good on you.
It sounds like my daughter. Oh,
don't have that filter, that sweet talking filter that we're supposed to have for people, right? And you and I are similar. It's like we sometimes we have foot and mouth disease, and that's just the way it is. But I want to say though, it's interesting because these kids are like magical. They're amazing. And if you notice, like 1990 to 1999, all the kids were diagnosed with ADHD because of the fact that they had multiple nines in their date of birth. And 9 is the most active mental number. It's like the tangent thinker, the big dreamer, the like thinking circles around other people. So they get bored in school. And then when we switched to 2000 and the 2000 babies started being born, it was the 2. 2 is the number of intuition, sensitivity, passivity, support. It's very like, food textures bother you, like tags bother you, it's all sensitivity, and it's very docile and passive. So they had autism. So it was like the big autism movement where like every other kid was like on the spectrum. So it was interesting to see that. So I'm sure your kids fall more into the other category of like.
No, actually, you hit it. I mean, my kid, I have in the 90s, 97, and then I have 2006 and 2008, which is funny because like we actually have a crash pad at the house, and that calms them down, and we have these heavy blankets that they have like to keep them to sleep. It's interesting. I mean, as you're saying, I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, like how real is that? Like looking at my children and their friends.
When I wrote my book, The Energy of Words, I wanted to say that in there, but my publisher made me write it to death until it was really not the point I wanted to make, because she
Yeah.
thought it would ruffle a lot of the autistic groups and moms and parents that, my child has autism. And I'd say, no, that's just the way they're built. you know,
Yeah.
they have multiple twos, they're highly sensitive, and that's just the way it is. And they may not be a textbook case of autism. There are very few, actually, that I believe that are textbook cases of autism. I think that's just the way that they're built. And so, they didn't want me to say that, so I had to
So we say it here.
say it here. That's right.
Awesome.
So thank you, Matt, and we'll keep in touch. And I'm going to put some info about you on here, and get those baby boomers knocking at your door, because I think
Awesome.
they're going to come in droves for sure. So take care, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
You too, honey. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.